I am absolutely going to testify. I won't even say his name. He is an evil being and is going to pay.
I think that I was just, living in this shame, living in all this sort of stuff of my past, and I wasn't able to move on. It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on you in a second.
Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time.
The courtroom held its breath. Diddy, who had remained calm until now, suddenly broke. His fists clenched, his jaw tightened, the tension in the room rose like a storm about to hit, and then Justin Bieber's name rang out. In that instant, something in Diddy snapped. This was the moment he lost control. It happened on day 2 of the trial, right after he found out that Justin Bieber had come out in support of Cassie. Security rushed in. What followed was so intense, even the judge was left stunned.
You think the person that the you of then was on a path of self-destruction?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I would have, for sure, 100%, yeah. It would have been no bueno. It was bad. I don't know if I'd be alive, for sure. It was dark. So I'm very, very grateful to have influences in my life that have played a huge part in me seeing their relationship with Jesus and their relationship with their wives and their relationship with their kids and saying that's what I want. But I want to definitely tell my story so that if that resonates to anybody, that they can hopefully, but yeah, just protecting those moments, because people take for granted encounters and
Wow! I feel violated right now. Wow.
Lean into me again. You smell amazing. How old are you?
Thank you.
How old are you?
I'm 16. I'll be 17 in like 2 weeks.
I don't ever remember smelling that good at 16. That was bad.
Yeah.
Wow, look at your eyes. Look at what a beautiful...
Bieber turned 15, and it suddenly seemed that Hollywood was keen to almost initiate him. I think that's the right word. Like, there was almost like this initiation that he needed to go through. So I want you to be now super uncomfortable and watch this video of an interaction between him and none other than Diddy. Take a listen.
Justin, you ever seen the movie For the Times of Their Lives? Like, where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. I have been given custody of him. He signed to Usher. I had legal guardianship of Usher when he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So and we gonna go full.
Young Justin Bieber, who was signed by Usher, involved with Scooter Braun. Now all of a sudden he's being put in the hands of Diddy, who, it is true, he became the legal guardian for Usher. You can look up all of the allegations of what Diddy did. The allegations are essentially that Diddy very much initiated Usher. As we are going through these lawsuits and Diddy is in prison, we are recognizing that everybody knew. This was an open secret about what Diddy was doing. So it just begs the question, who allowed Justin Bieber to be in the presence of this man, knowing what he was up to, allegedly up to? That seems to be very clear.
Day 2 began with an eerie calm. Diddy walked in flanked by his high-powered legal team, exuding confidence, at least on the surface. But if you look closely, something wasn't right. His eyes kept darting around the room, like he was expecting someone to leap out of the shadows. Security that morning, totally different vibe. Extra guards were posted near his table. Unusual, even for a celebrity trial. One stood directly behind his chair. Another held position near the aisle. It felt like someone had tipped them off, like something was about to go down. Then Cassie entered. The room shifted, heads turned. She wore a simple black dress with a white collar. Nothing extravagant, but it said everything. She wasn't alone. Her friends surrounded her like silent bodyguards, walking her to her seat with quiet defiance. The contrast couldn't be clearer. Diddy with paid protection, Cassie with people who actually cared. But the real tension, it started with Diddy's phone. He kept pulling it out, scrolling, his face darkening with each glance. At one point, his lawyer had to physically take it from him. That's when I saw it. Diddy's hand was shaking. Meanwhile, the prosecution team was acting like they'd struck gold. Whispers behind folders, notes passed. One prosecutor showed something on her tablet to another. Both nodded like a puzzle had finally clicked into place. They knew something big. Diddy's lead attorney tried calming him 3 times before the judge even walked in. He leaned in, whispered in Diddy's ear, hand on his shoulder, but Diddy wasn't having it. He shrugged him off. Once so hard the lawyer nearly lost his balance, and then the judge entered. Her face said it all. On day 1, she'd been firm but relaxed. Today, she looked like a principal who just found out the school bully brought a knife to class. Her eyes shot straight to Diddy's table. She leaned toward her clerk, whispered something. The clerk nodded, picked up his phone. No one else knew it yet, but Diddy had seen something minutes before court began. A post from Justin Bieber. It wasn't just support for Cassie. It was public, loud, and damning. His team tried to take the phone too late. He'd already seen it, and it rattled him. The bailiff called the courtroom to order. You could feel it, like the air itself was buzzing. Even the jurors seemed nervous, exchanging confused glances. One juror's hands were visibly shaking as she reached for water. Diddy sat motionless, except for his leg, bouncing uncontrollably under the table. A vein in his forehead pulsed. His lawyer kept sliding papers in front of him, trying to ground him in legal strategy. Diddy didn't even look down. He stared ahead, eyes wide, breathing heavy. It was like watching someone try to contain a bomb inside their chest. We all knew it was going to go off. We just didn't know when or how bad the fallout would be. The clock ticked louder, and with every second, Diddy's perfect image inched closer to collapse, right there, in front of everyone.
Yeah, so, yeah. I just want to protect her, you know? I don't want her to lose it. I don't want her to, you know, go through anything I went through. I don't wish that upon anybody. So, yeah, if she ever needs me, just think about how young I was and so impressionable. And you have everybody telling me how awesome I am at all times, you know, and like.
It's like taking a kid and putting a kid in a room full of nothing but sweets.
Right.
And just saying, I'll be back in 2 days.
Exactly. I just want people to understand, like, the psychology behind why I potentially could have problems in my life.
In time, let's talk about the fact that Combs' co-defendant in a civil case, a case, by the way, that accuses him and this co-defendant, another A-lister, of rape. This guy is once again slamming the attorney behind the case, insisting that he be sanctioned for allegedly not doing his job. We're talking, of course, about Sean Carter, better known as Jay-Z, once again calling out attorney Tony Busby, calling out his character, more specifically into question, claiming that the Texas attorney's filings have, quote, substantial. Now, we've talked about this before, but basically, a civil lawsuit was filed against Sean Combs on behalf of a Jane Doe who says that she was raped by Combs and another celebrity at a home after the Video Music Awards in 2000.
While the courtroom was caught in the heat of legal drama, something seismic was unfolding online. Out of nowhere, Justin Bieber dropped a social media bomb that no one saw coming. Right in the middle of the trial, Bieber posted a statement that lit up the internet and sent shockwaves straight into that courtroom. He wasn't vague. He didn't just say, sending love. He took a side, a very clear one. He stood with Cassie, and he didn't hold back. The betrayal hit hard because Bieber and Diddy weren't just acquaintances, they had history. Old videos show a young Bieber at Diddy's parties. Diddy once called himself Justin's mentor, his big brother. He bragged about shaping Bieber's career. So when Bieber turned around and called him out publicly, it wasn't just unexpected, it was brutal. In his post, Bieber described firsthand what he'd seen. He mentioned an afterparty in 2015 where he saw Diddy grab Cassie's arm too hard. He remembered moments where Diddy cut her off mid-sentence, where he spoke for her in interviews. These weren't rumors, these were witnessed events. During the first court recess, the post exploded. People huddled in the courthouse hallways, phones out, reading Bieber's words in disbelief. Legal assistants printed screenshots for lawyers. Court officers had to remind people to turn their phones off before re-entering. Even some jurors looked rattled, clearly aware that something major had just dropped. The post came with an old photo, Bieber and Cassie, side by side at some music event years ago. Smiling, but in her eyes, something deeper lingered. In the caption, Bieber wrote, "I've always respected Cassie's strength. I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner." The timing couldn't have been worse for Diddy. Within minutes, the post hit all 270 million of Bieber's followers. Headlines exploded. This wasn't celebrity gossip anymore. This was a global icon speaking out during an active trial. The courtroom buzzed. One reporter literally ran out to call her editor. Another typed like her life depended on it. Across the aisle, a journalist mouthed, "Did you see it?" to his colleague. It was chaos. The whispers grew so loud, a bailiff had to hush the room. People glanced at Diddy, wondering if he'd seen it yet. Others watched Cassie, who remained poised, calm, unreadable. What made Bieber's words really powerful was how personal they felt. He called Cassie brave and truthful. He admitted, "Certain behaviors I witnessed years ago troubled me deeply. I just didn't recognize the pattern. I'm disappointed in myself for not seeing the control sooner." When Diddy's lawyer saw the post, he jumped into action. He leaned over, whispering frantically, trying to block Diddy's view of the screen. Phones disappeared off the table, but it was too late. Someone had already shown him. Diddy stared at the phone, his eyes locked in, and in that split second, his entire face changed. Anyone close enough could see it. The shock, the rage, the unraveling. The damage was done, and it was only just beginning.
Years old, and I should mention he was signed by Usher to a label that was owned jointly by both Scooter Braun and Usher, and he was considered Usher's protege. He has been described Usher as his mentor. Justin Bieber is continuing the purge. He has now moved to his original mentor. So this is a very big story, and the reason why we should discuss this and we should not diminish what is happening, it's not celebrity drama. This is actually the fall of Babylon that we are witnessing, Hollywood Babylon, that is. He did an interview back in 2020 with Zane Lowe. I think this was on Apple Music. And he was speaking about another young artist that was coming up, Billie Eilish, and Eilish. And he was basically speaking about how he wanted to protect her because she was now another young person, a rising artist in the industry. And sort of out of nowhere, he became quite overcome with emotion. Take a listen.
Yeah, I definitely feel protective of her. It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on you in a second. So yeah, it's hard because I want her to know that, she can count on me, but at the end of the day, never gonna force myself to be in relationship with her. It has to be natural, right? So I just kind of, let her do her thing, and if she ever needs me, I'm gonna be here for her. But yeah, just protecting those moments because people take for granted.
I'm not even kidding. Watching that clip makes me emotional because he is saying so much without really saying anything. Protect Billie Eilish from what? From who?
When Diddy saw Justin Bieber's post, his entire demeanor shifted, like someone flipped a switch. First came the shock. Wide eyes, jaw slack, completely blindsided, but that quickly turned. His brows furrowed, his nostrils flared, and then came the rage. You could see it boiling under the surface. His jaw clenched so hard it looked painful, and one woman, sitting 3 rows back later, told reporters his hands began to tremble uncontrollably. He reached for a stack of papers his attorney handed over, but his grip was so unsteady they slipped through his fingers and scattered on the floor. That's when people started staring. Something was clearly wrong. Then, without warning, Diddy stood up. And not in a normal, casual way. It was abrupt, tense, like a man on the edge. One of the bailiffs, who'd clearly been keeping a close eye on him, immediately moved in. You could tell this wasn't his first time dealing with someone about to erupt in court. And then Diddy said it, loud enough for the front rows to hear. "After everything I did for that kid, loyalty means nothing anymore." Then something about consequences, so sharp and unsettling, that his own lawyer grabbed his arm and yanked him back down into his seat. The courtroom froze. Diddy's breathing was heavy, like he'd just run up 5 flights of stairs. The courtroom sketch artist would later say she'd never captured such intensity in 12 years of trial coverage. His bulging eyes, his clenched jaw, the veins pulsing in his neck. The prosecutors saw all of it. The lead prosecutor gave a discreet hand signal to an assistant, who slipped out the side door. Moments later, we'd learned they were rushing to prepare a witness mentioned in Bieber's post. Even the courtroom security picked up on it. 2 guards shifted closer to Diddy's table. One quietly unclipped something from his belt, not drawing a weapon, but clearly getting ready just in case. That confident, cool persona Diddy had displayed earlier, gone. Now he was fidgeting, wiping sweat from his forehead, loosening his tie like it was choking him. And then it got worse. He slammed his hand down on the table, hard, knocking over a water glass that shattered on the floor. The sound echoed through the courtroom. Everyone jumped. Then he muttered something, low but audible to those nearby. "I'll make sure he never works in this town again. Neither of them will." His lawyer threw an arm around his shoulders to calm him, but the damage was done. The judge immediately struck a gavel and called a 15-minute recess. The courtroom emptied, but that short break only gave Diddy more time to stew. When they returned, something had shifted, and this time, it was Cassie. She stepped up to the witness stand with her back straight, her chin up. Gone was the nervous energy from the first day. She didn't avoid Diddy's gaze, she just treated him like he wasn't worth her time. She looked right at the jury and began. And then came the shockwave. The prosecution revealed never-before-seen text messages from Diddy to Cassie. One from 2016 showed 17 unanswered messages in a row, demanding to know why she hadn't picked up the phone. Another message asked for her precise hotel location, down to the room number. "I need to know where you are every minute," one text read. "That's the deal if you want to keep your career." The room went dead silent. You could hear the ceiling fans. Cassie testified about how Diddy controlled who she could talk to in the industry. "There was a list of male artists I wasn't allowed to speak to unless he was there," she said. Justin Bieber was one of them. She recounted how Diddy once grabbed her arm in front of a room full of people after she spoke to Justin at an after-party. He leaned in and whispered that I'd regret it. Her voice was steady, no trembling, no hesitation. She spoke clearly about being isolated, monitored, and threatened. Her details matched almost word for word what Bieber had posted. But Cassie insisted they hadn't spoken in years. When asked why she never came forward before, her answer was brutal. "He told me no one would believe me. He said he controlled who worked in this industry and who didn't. And I watched him end people's careers with a single phone call." Two jurors visibly reacted. One wiped away tears. Another scribbled something down and underlined it 3 times. Then came the most damning moment of the day. Prosecutors played hotel surveillance footage from 2018. It showed Cassie in the lobby talking to another male artist. Then Diddy entered, put his arm around her, and led her away. The body language matched her description perfectly. Diddy leaned toward his lawyer, panicked, whispering and pointing at the screen. Cassie continued, naming dates, locations, and who was present with chilling accuracy. March 8th, 2017 at the Standard Hotel. June 22nd, 2017 at Diddy's home in Miami. September 12th, 2018 backstage at the VMAs. Each time she spoke, Diddy's legal team scrambled, flipping through papers, growing visibly shaken. Cassie added that since Bieber's statement, other people had started reaching out. "My phone hasn't stopped. People are ready to tell what they saw." And then, she dropped the final bombshell. "After I spoke to Justin at a party once, Diddy pulled me aside and said, 'Even Justin knows what happens to people who cross me.'" Now, with Bieber publicly supporting her, that threat hit different. It sounded less like bravado and more like a warning finally exposed. As Cassie continued, Diddy unraveled. Each word she spoke aligned with Bieber's post. He fidgeted, whispered furiously to his lawyer. The calm, collected music mogul, gone. He was spiraling, and the world was watching.
And weeks after the initial filing, Busby submitted an amended complaint naming Jay-Z as the celebrity who allegedly participated. They wanted copies of these videos for themselves. And I've talked to lawyers about this before. There's a big advantage to having the electronic video, the electronic evidence yourself, right? You don't have to always go over to the other office. You can view the materials on your own. It's a way to better prepare for your defense. And Sean Combs' lawyers argue that under the federal rules of criminal procedure, electronic data that is in the government's possession, Judge Subramanian denied the defense's motion to amend the protective order, but without prejudice, meaning this issue could be revisited. So Subramanian's order reads, quote, "While the government objects to handing the videos over, they provide several options for a defendant to consider that would permit the defense to view the videos, access the information they're looking for, and even allow them to manipulate the videos."
It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on you in a second. So if she ever needs me, I'm gonna be here for her, but yeah, just protecting those moments because people take for granted encounters, and I just want to protect her, I don't want her to go through anything I went through. I don't wish that upon anybody. Yeah, if she ever needs me, I'm just a call away.
Do you realize how important your story is? every time I have a conversation with someone who's been through this unique type of experience, I'm searching for some kind of truth that can help.
I commend you for going there and asking the tough questions and the things that people don't want to talk about, and they don't want to go there because it's revealing, and I want people to take a look at my story, and hopefully my words can make it.
Just when it felt like the courtroom couldn't get any more intense, the prosecutor stepped into the center of the room, calm but clearly armed with something serious. Your Honor, she began, holding up a slim folder, we'd like to present evidence that directly contradicts Mr. Combs' claim that Miss Ventura fabricated these allegations. She moved with quiet confidence, pulled out her tablet, and connected it to the courtroom display system. Within seconds, every screen around the room flickered to life, revealing a series of text messages between Justin Bieber and Cassie from 2017. The prosecutor zoomed in on one particular exchange. Jurors visibly leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Cassie had written, I don't know what to do anymore. He monitors everything. He said if I talk to anyone, he'll make sure I never work again. Bieber's response hit like a lightning bolt. This isn't normal, Cass. What he's doing isn't okay. You need to talk to someone who can help. Gasps rippled through the room. Then, the sound of a chair scraping harshly across the floor. Diddy had jumped to his feet. His face was red, eyes bulging. The calm, collected mogul we'd seen all week, gone. Completely gone. His lawyer grabbed for his arm, desperate to contain the explosion. Sean, don't do this, the lawyer hissed under his breath, but loud enough for the front rows to hear. Diddy shoved his hand off, hard. The attorney stumbled backward. This is all lies, Diddy shouted, his voice cracking with fury. He pointed at Cassie, voice rising with every word. You know damn well that's not what happened. Where's your loyalty? After everything I did for you, you're making this all up. Both of you. The courtroom froze. Then, bang, bang, bang. The judge's gavel slammed down 3 times. Mr. Combs, sit down immediately, or I will have you removed from this courtroom. But Diddy wasn't listening. 2 security officers sprang into motion. One moved in front of the defense table, cutting off his line of sight to Cassie. The other approached from behind. Court reporters typed furiously. Jurors sat in shock. One older woman in the back row had her hand clamped over her mouth. A younger man near the front instinctively leaned his chair away from Diddy. Your Honor, we request a recess, Diddy's lawyer called out, desperate to stop the unraveling. But Diddy was still yelling, now pointing wildly at the screen. Those are fake, fabricated, this is a setup. Justin never said that, but the damage was done. The prosecution had just introduced devastating evidence, messages that directly contradicted Diddy's claim that Cassie invented everything for fame or money. She had confided in Bieber about the exact same behavior years before she ever filed a lawsuit. Bang. The judge didn't hesitate. Remove the jury, now, she ordered the bailiff. 12 stunned men and women filed out, their eyes glued to Diddy, still standing, still shouting. Security moved in fast. One placed a firm hand on his shoulder. Sir, you need to calm down, now. For a moment, it looked like Diddy might actually shove the officer too. Instead, he froze, chest heaving, eyes wide. Reality finally hit him like a freight train. His decades of carefully crafted control had just shattered in front of everyone, and the world saw it. With the jury out of the room, Judge Marlowe didn't hold back. She stood behind the bench, voice like steel. Mr. Combs, this is a court of law, not a recording studio. You do not control what happens here. She wasn't finished. One more outburst like that, and I will hold you in contempt. You will spend the rest of this trial in a holding cell, only brought in when necessary. Then came the knockout blow. A court-ordered psychiatric evaluation before the next session. New security protocols were immediately put in place. 2 officers were to remain within arm's reach of Diddy at all times. His lawyers could no longer speak to him without a guard present. His phone privileges, gone. Diddy's legal team huddled in the corner like a football team down 40 points. One attorney just kept shaking his head. Another made frantic calls. A third scribbled notes, occasionally glancing up at Diddy with a look that screamed, "We're in trouble." Their body language said it all. They knew the case had just suffered a massive blow. When the jury returned, the shift was unmistakable. A woman in the front row physically scooted her chair farther from the defense table. An older man who'd been taking detailed notes now sat with his arms crossed, pen untouched. And juror number 8, the young professional who had smiled politely at Diddy on day 1, now refused to even look in his direction. The prosecution, meanwhile, was all calm composure. The lead prosecutor shuffled her papers neatly, occasionally glancing at Diddy with quiet satisfaction. Her assistant even had to suppress a smile at one point. Security wasn't subtle for the rest of the day. 2 guards stood directly behind Diddy's chair. Another guarded the door, hand resting near his belt. The message couldn't have been clearer. No more chances. In the gallery, legal experts whispered to one another. A former federal prosecutor leaned over to his colleague. He just lost. right there. A law professor scribbled notes with urgency. One defense attorney from another high-profile trial just shook his head and muttered, "Amateur hour." And through it all, Cassie didn't move. She sat upright, hands folded neatly in her lap, expression unreadable. When Diddy erupted, she didn't flinch, not even a blink. Her control, her composure, it was striking, chilling even. The contrast couldn't have been more clear. Cassie, calm, strong, unshaken. Diddy, unhinged, unraveling, exposed. By the end of the day, the change was stark. Diddy had walked in like he owned the courtroom. Designer suit, confident smile, head held high. Now he shuffled out, tie loosened, eyes on the floor, surrounded by lawyers who looked like they'd aged 10 years in one afternoon. But the most telling moment, as his lead attorney gently placed a hand on Diddy's back to guide him out, Diddy shrugged it off. That same defiant gesture from earlier, but this time, it wasn't about power, it was about defeat. What happened that day wasn't just about evidence, it was about character. Cassie held her ground while Diddy unraveled, and when Justin Bieber took her side, we saw who they really were under pressure. Let's be honest, Diddy didn't just lose control, he may have lost the case right then and there. Jurors don't forget moments like that. The rest of the evidence might not even matter. The only real question now, who's going to speak up next? Because Justin Bieber just broke the unspoken rule of celebrity silence, and now that door is wide open. Who else is going to walk through it?